like everybody else, I'm sitting at home, sheltering from the coronavirus. So I'm going to do some stuff to my Jeep. I did get the Dana 60 in. I drove it yesterday. Jeep is up and running. It's good to report, but thought while we're all sitting around hiding the coronavirus, we go through some of the basic stuff. There's a guy who said, you know, everybody wants to build something, nobody wants to do maintenance, and that's a true statement. So here's some maintenance stuff you might want to think about doing on your Jeep. You know, first thing you might want to do, like me, is wash it, because you get it clean and maintenance is easy. Second thing, you want to check your fluids. Third thing, check your tire pressure. Fourth thing is grease everything and fix those broken fittings. I guarantee you somewhere in your Jeep you probably got a grease fitting that's busted somewhere. Fifth thing, check your wheel bearings. Sixth thing, check those steering joints and your ball joints, make sure all that steering stuff is right. Seventh thing, you know, put in new front axle U-joints if you haven't done it in a while. I happen to have brand new ones because I just built that axle, but yeah, people are always thinking, don't want to do that, don't wait till they break. Eighth thing, check and put in new driveline U-joints. These are things that fail on the trail, might as well do it. Ninth thing, clean up that wiring. I haven't seen very many Jeeps that don't have some sort of mess of wiring going on, and get that cleaned up. And then last thing, really get in there and find a way to lift your Jeep up and check that suspension for binding, where it's rubbing. And all these things together mean that, you know, when this thing's all over and we all get to go out and Jeep again, and we're gonna have a good time, we're not gonna break. The Jeep needs a good cleaning. It's gonna happen. Probably gonna rain today. I wanted to get this video in, so yeah, I gotta get in here, you know, clean up this engine stuff as well. I mean, my pressure washer's not working. And of course, every time I start one of these videos, get interrupted. Hey Susan, I'm interrupting too. Baby. So, in my inspection, my fluid was low in my overflow for my radiator. My tranny fluid was low. The rear differential, when I checked it last time, was all milky white because it had gotten a lot of water in it. Front differential is good because it's brand new. So transfer case needs to be checked. You know, that stuff that's kind of hard to get to. You know, get in there and check all those fluids. Make sure everything's good. Okay, check your tire pressure. Another important thing to do while you're out there. You don't get it. Yeah, that one's about 10 or 12 lows. I had to fill these tires up, get up to the recommend. I usually run about 32. Jeeps have grease fittings everywhere. My Jeep, I've got them on my control arms, and Johnny joints. I've got some up here on the front. Mostly I'm running Heims, but I had a couple that are not Heims, and got to make sure that they're greased. Check your steering linkage, track bar, tie rod. Get in there in your drive line. Sometimes your drive line U-joints can have grease fittings. Rear drive line, there's grease fittings on all kinds of stuff. So make sure you go through thoroughly. Make sure you have the right kind of tool. So I'm use the regular clip-on. Put good grease in it. That's just a basic maintenance thing that goes neglected that if you just need to do once in a while. Okay, here's a simple test I always do on my Jeep. See if things are good. And you can see kind of working it back and forth. I'm going, oh wow, look at that. Took it on its first test drive yesterday, and I got a little play right there, which really means I need to take this hub off, go in there, and on this kind of bearing, tighten that thing up a little bit. That's probably a result of just driving it the first time, put the first 100 miles on it yesterday. So, you know, actually a good thing that I checked it. Want to make sure it spins good. Want to check your brake rotors, you know, make sure that there's no grooving in them. So yeah, so I'll be probably taking these apart and just tweaking on that bearing a little bit, because yeah, just shake it up and down. If you get that little rattle, you know it's a little bit too loose. So that's a good thing that I did. Okay, this next check you're going to do is going to require someone to give you a little help, and the Jeep has to be running. Doesn't have an exhaust right now, so it's going to be pretty loud. So I'll talk you through it and you'll see what I'm doing. I'm basically going to put my hand on all these joints that are down here, track bar, tie rods, ball joints, and I'm going to check all those things and feel if I feel any looseness in it. My dad's just going to be working the steering wheel back and forth, and I'm going to check all those connection points. I found out that this end of my track bar is rocking a little bit. I found that this jam nut was not tight. I could just I could feel it pulling, and I loosened it up. So I need to tighten this jam nuts on both ends. Steering up here looked good. A little bit of play you can feel in here. So yeah, there were a couple little things that definitely need some tightening up, and I've got to look at and figure out, like, hey, what's going on here? Particularly checking out this steering stuff. So there were a few little loose spots. Always good to find. So,
yes, it is. Hey.
Yeah. Dad has no idea we're on camera. Dad, say hi to the folks.
Hi, folks.
Yeah, on YouTube. So Dad's always helping me out here. I'll let you get back to the warmth of your handy apartment.
Alrighty.
Thank you for the help.
Oh, wait till you get the bill.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. If you're really ambitious, and I've got other videos, you know, if you got to pull apart and check these bearings and all that, and you want to tighten things up, or you got other stuff to do, get in there and change those U-joints on your front axle, and get in there and change the driveline U-joints if they're old on your drivelines. I mean, those are just simple maintenance things. I suspect for most people, if you pulled your driveline out and you pulled your U-joints out, you'd find at least one that was bad. Okay, for this one, I'm just going to show you stuff that I've been doing for a while. So I just got through redoing the Jeep, and look at that. I mean, it's maybe not the prettiest, but it's a lot prettier than it was. All this stuff down here is zip tied and close, and you know, I got to go through and do some maintenance here, you know, just clip off these zip ties. But I spent a lot of time over the last 8 months I was working on this project, cleaning up wiring, and these are like one of the coolest little things I found. All right, so one of the handiest tools I found for doing all this stuff is really this guy right here. It's a zip tie, and it's got this little push pull, so you can just drill a hole, you know, push it in there and zip tie stuff down, and you can drill a hole anywhere in your Jeep. I have used these things. They're fairly cheap. You can get them on Amazon. But man, they really give you a way to clean up all that wiring. It's really easy. I think they're cool. Get yourself 100 of these and go around and plug everything into, drill little body holes, whatever you need to do, clean up all that wiring. All right, last but not least, check the binding in your suspension. Right? Wheel spacing is different than what they imagined. So I'm going to lift my Jeep up and see where the suspension binds. Okay, so I'm up pretty close to full articulation. On the back corner there, I'll show you the binding. Nice to see they still have a little clearance here on the front tire. Probably go a little higher. Looking here, yeah, my shock can still actually go up another inch or two. Now we're getting pretty close because I just kind of almost feels like I could maybe push it over. I'd probably go a little higher. Right now I'm down on the safety stop here. I was about 2 inches, 3 inches higher. So let me show you what's going on in the rear. So this is where I sort of bottom out first. I'm gonna have to. All right, so we're gonna try to get under here and take a look at that rear shock. And what you can see is a couple things. First thing you see is that shock is all the way down on the bump stop. Of course, that's the first one to go. Second thing you might be able to see is that that is right up against the tire. Now I might end up, I'm using a little bit of spacer on the back here to get clearance just for that issue. I may have to go another 1/2 inch to fully clear those shocks. When I'm at full compression, I don't want them rubbing on the tires. That's bad for the shocks and for the tires, and one of those things that might make you brake when you're on the trail. So this is what you're looking for, where things go bump and where things hit, you know. So for the most part, looking pretty good. Over on this side, I mean, it's funny, you can see how much clearance I got on this side, but when that bad boy goes up, it is gonna rub. And of course my tire is off the ground. And up here where I'm compressed on the front, I'm liking that pretty good too. I mean, I'm gonna come around the other side. Let's take a look at that. So as you look at those springs, what you see is I still got a couple of inches I could go up in the front. Got a little bit of clearance there, and you can see what I'll be doing is I'll be taking these fender flares off when I run, because when I'm running on the trail, if I got that extra 2 inches of up travel for whatever reason, yeah, I would probably be hitting this fender flare. But if I take that fender flare off, you can see I got a couple more inches to go. So these are the kind of things you're looking for. Are things binding? The other thing you want to look for is, you know, is your suspension, you know, see that's not binding real bad, and it's got plenty of travel on that. Make sure your track bar isn't hitting anything. You know, I'm looking up under here and I'm going, okay, my track bar is up here pretty close, but it's not hitting anything. The other thing I wanted to look at was take a look at that 3-link. So you can look back in there and you can see the 3-link is all the way up, but it's not hitting the engine mount. It's not hitting the body anywhere. That's why it's got that weird kind of bend down, because if it were straight, it might be hitting stuff, especially if that goes up another couple of inches. So that's all the kind of good stuff I'm looking for to make sure that the suspension doesn't bind up in some weird fashion and ultimately cause things to break. Pretty pleased with the way this turned out. By the way, yes, I do need to finish the exhaust on this. You can see where I cut it off, and I got that little space back there to put it in. One of my last little projects to get done before I get her all put back together and on the road, out on the trail. Hey, thanks guys. Hit subscribe if you like this stuff. Hopefully it's informative. Got some work to do on my Jeep, little tweak stuff, but now's a good time to do it. Be safe out there. Oh yeah, so I forgot to look at this. Boy, I am gonna do just a little notch in between the tire and this guy right here, because that's really close. I'm gonna have to run without my fenders on, or either that or I might just move these things up. Up under here I got plenty of clearance, but right back in there, you see that line, I gotta trim that bad boy out so that I don't get my tire up in here rubbing on the body. So yeah, a couple little things to do. Gonna go ahead and move those fender flares up. Forgot to check that the first time through, but these are good things to look for in your own Jeep. So we got started. So the TJ, that is about as clean as the interior of my TJ has been in probably a decade. So yeah, actually could probably get in it without making a mess. So I started my project. We'll go over a couple of a little list of things that I found on my inspection, and then, you know, then I'll, yeah, get started. My little checklist of stuff, get it done, and be ready to take this bad boy off road. Okay, went through my checklist on this fun rainy day. Saw some video to get started on the cleaning, but I did find some stuff. Tranny fluid was low, coolant low, tire pressures were off, wheel bearings need to be checked, the track bar was loose, jam nuts on some of the front end stuff were loose, the rear tire was interfering with the coilover. I haven't even started the grease everything yet because it was wet today, and I know I've got a few broken grease fittings under there that I'm going to have to get in there with a little tap or a little remover tool and pull those out, get everything greased. So, you know, I figure I got a day's worth of work here, another day's worth of work after getting it clean, and then, yeah, it should be in pretty good shape. So, thanks for watching. Click that like button and subscribe. Okay, this is your, I guess you're a redneck if your chickens and dogs interrupt your Jeep video making for YouTube. Got transfer case fluid. I checked my other while ago, it was good. The animal's mud bugging me. Get out of here, chicken. Get out of here. So, check all those fluids. You wash it, you check your fluids, then you got to get down to greasing everything. You know, everybody's got, oh, these chickens love me. And of course, every time I start one of these videos, get interrupted. Hey Susan, I'm interrupting too. Baby. So, in my inspection, pull the plug, check your differential fluid, especially check for that milky white stuff that indicates you got water. You need to change that differential fluid. My rear axle, when I started this project, I had to do that. It was a mess, full of water.